Okay, this is an example of how to use a combination of direct distance and relative coordinates to do an exercise in Chapter 1, and I am referring specifically to exercise number 1 in your textbook. That's on page 1-27, and I'm doing number 1 again. I'm actually going to start at the bottom. The dimension is a 3, and I'm going to work in a counterclockwise motion. And for people who are not familiar with mechanical drawings, you'll notice that several of the dimensions are missing. Standard practice mandates that we don't dimension everything on the view due to tolerance buildup. In other words, if somebody were to manufacture this, you don't want to have them locked into certain dimensions and not give them any sort of play, so to speak. So again, I'm going to be starting at the bottom left-hand corner and then working my way back to that bottom left-hand corner. Okay, so I'm going to start by going to the Draw menu, and I'm not going to have the grid on, but I am going to start at a specific point. So I'm going to go to Line. I'm going to make sure that Ortho is on. It's going to keep it from moving diagonally. It's going to keep these straight vertical and horizontal lines. I'm going to click on Ortho. And I'm going to start, and it says down here, specify first point. I'm going to start at 4, 4, and that is really kind of an arbitrary point. Hit Enter. Specify next point, and I notice it's a 3. I'm doing the entire length, so I just type a 3 and hit Enter. You notice it's fairly small on the page. If I were to put the grid on, you would notice that the grid actually only sits in that bottom left-hand corner, so to speak. Okay, I'm moving again upwards. That's 1.5. And I'm actually going to be able to draw this all in one motion. Now the next piece that I need to draw is actually at an angle, and I'm going to be doing this with relative coordinates. Now we remember two things. Relative coordinates, you need an @ sign, which is a shift and a 2, and we need the change in x first and the change in y. So we notice we're going in the positive y direction and the negative x. So my syntax would be, again, the @ sign minus 0.75, because I'm moving in the negative x, comma 0.5, and hit Enter. We notice that it does shift it to the left. Okay, the next coordinate is a 1. Hit Enter. I'm using direct distance again. Okay, the next one again is an angle, and I'm moving in the left direction on the x, which is negative, and down in the y direction, and that's again negative. And I'm using relative coordinates, so I'm doing at minus 1.25, comma, change in x was minus 1.25, change in y minus 0.75, because I'm moving down, hit Enter. Okay, then I'm going to drag my mouse down a little bit. You know, I've gone past the starting point, but that's okay because I haven't entered in any coordinates. Due to tolerance buildup, I have to do a little math here and there, and I notice that I have a 1.25 dimension, I have a 0.5 dimension on that channel or that cutout, and then a 0.25 dimension at the bottom. So by doing some addition and subtraction, I know that the next dimension will be 0.5. So I do 0.5. I'm going to drag my mouse over to the right, and again I need to do some addition and subtraction to determine that 3 minus 2.25, 0.75, and I've dragged my mouse over to the right to do direct distance. 0.75, hit Enter. Drag it down, 0.5. Again, 0.75, and then I'm going to type C for close. Now the only time that you would use C for close is if you're doing a continuous motion. So this is actually exercise number 1, and I'm going to just zoom in a little bit, show you what it looks like. So that is an example of direct distance and relative coordinates. Keep in mind also, when you use direct distance, it's best to have ortho on. Move your mouse in the direction that you want the line to go in, and just type the distance. It's that easy. For those of us who used very early AutoCADs, we didn't have that. We had to use relative or polar coordinates instead. So I hope that's helped. As part of this exercise, I'm also going to include the history of this particular drawing in a text file. So that is exercise number 1 on page 1-27.